quiet, they're not gonna run away.
What time do you
But,
guys meet?
All right, I got 7, Larry. Can you get that? Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call to order this meeting of the 4th of January, 2024, City of Nashua Planning Board. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mayor Donges, Mike Peterson, Scott Leclaire,
Here.
Adam Farley,
Here.
Maggie Harper here, Alderman Clee,
Here.
Dan Hudson, Bob Bollinger,
Here.
Larry Hirsch,
Here.
Cameron Green.
here,
All right, so we have a quorum of folks. We'll keep moving forward with the agenda. First up is approval of the minutes. So we have minutes from the 7th of December, 2023. Meeting in our packet. Has anybody from the board had a chance to take a look at those and want to make a motion as to whether they're ready for us to accept as written or require any amendments? Mr. Hirsch?
Motion to approve the minutes.
All right, so we have that motion by Mr. Hirsch to approve the December 7th, 2023 minutes as written. Do we have a second? Second by Alderman Clee. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. That motion passes unanimously. All right. Communications?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and Happy New Year. We received today an email from Chad Brandon from Fieldstone Land Consulting asking that the project for Flatley be not heard until our January 18th meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
That's it.
Any reports of committees or liaisons?
None, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So, just looking around, do we have any audience online? I know, I recognize everybody out here in the audience as
There
being.
is one person.
There is, okay. So I'm just going to kind of read through the procedure here. So the procedure in the meeting and hearings will be as follows. After each legal notice of each conditional special use permit, site plan, or subdivision is read by myself, the board will first determine if the application is complete and ready for us to take jurisdiction. If we do take jurisdiction, a public hearing will begin, at which time the applicant or their representative will be given time to present an overview and description of their project. They'll speak to whether or not they agree with the staff stipulations, and the board will have an opportunity to ask relevant follow-up questions of the applicant or staff. Then I'll open up for any testimony from the audience. I'll first ask for anybody wishing to speak in opposition or concern to the plan to come forward or speak online if they exist there. Next, I'll ask for anybody wishing to speak in favor of the plan. This would be the time for you to express any concerns or ask any questions you may have regarding the plan. The board will then ask relevant follow-up questions of the applicant or our staff, and then the applicant will be given a rebuttal period, at which time they'll respond to any of the concerns raised by the public testimony. After this has been completed, the public hearing will end. The board will begin a public meeting, at which time we'll deliberate and vote on the application before us. I'd ask that everybody keep their remarks to the subject at hand and not repeat what has already been said. The board wants to be fair to everyone and make the best possible decision based on the testimony presented and considering all applicable approval criteria established in the Nashua Revised Ordinances of Conditional Special Use Permits, Site Plans, and Subdivision Plans. I'll take this time also to thank everybody for their interest and their courteous attention. So, all right, moving on. The first few items on our agenda here, A23-0066, 0067, 0068, and 0069 have all been previously tabled to our February 15th meeting. So moving on to the next item, we get to new business subdivision plan. This is case number A23-0210, Greeley Park Associates owner, Crimson Properties LLC owner. This is a proposed two-lot subdivision with a property located at 111 Concord Street. So for the board, has anybody had a chance to take a look at this application and want to make a motion as to whether it's ready for us to take jurisdiction? Alderman Clee?
I'll make that motion.
All right, so we have that motion by Alderman Clee to take jurisdiction. Do we have a second on the jurisdiction? Mr. Hirsch? Any further discussion on the jurisdiction by the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none? Okay, that passes, we have jurisdiction. All right, you're up.
Well, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Board. Happy New Year. For the record, my name is Tom Zajac. I'm a civil engineer with Hayner Swanson, 3 Congress Street here in Nashua. Here tonight representing the applicant, Crimson Properties LLC. As you mentioned, a 2-lot subdivision located at 111 Concord Street. Just have a very brief presentation, after which I'd be happy to answer any questions from the board or public. So as you can see up on the screen, the subject property, 111 Concord Street, map 48, lot 47. It's a little over a half-acre property. It's got a somewhat unique shape. It's got a contiguous frontage along Concord Street, as well as a kind of a pork chop piece that runs towards the back of the land to the east, which is planned up. The existing property currently contains the law office of Weiner and Bennett, who's been there for a long time. They've since relocated to Amherst Street, and this property is currently vacant. The existing building is roughly 6,100 square feet, a 2-story building, commercial office, as I mentioned. There are about 15 parking spaces located on site. There's a singular site driveway located along the northerly portion of the site. Direct abutters to the site, so to the north, is a 12-unit residential condominium age-restricted project known as Covington Place. That was approved by this board back in 2021, currently wrapping up construction. There are some unit owners there. We've got existing single-family residences to the east, both behind us, as well as off of Bates Drive, further to the east. To the south, we've got a driveway of 107 Concord Street, which is that lot that sits just to the east or to the rear of the property. And then 20 feet from that is the northerly edge of Greeley Park. Concord Street and an existing church abuts the property. To the west, if you're familiar with this area, there's a number of mixed uses along this corridor. There's a florist shop, single and multifamily residences. It's a pretty good mixed-use area. So what we're proposing here tonight is, like I said, a fairly standard 1-into-2 subdivision. Both lots will be conforming to the RA dimensional requirements. We are proposing 2 single-family homes as part of this project with new driveways located off of Concord Street. We will be demolishing, obviously, the existing building, as well as parking, utilities, and other site improvements. Stormwater management, we do have a slight increase in stormwater management. We are proposing 2 leaching catch basins in the back of the site. I'm sorry, a slight reduction in impervious area, but we are still proposing 2 leaching catch basins in the back of the site. The site really is fairly flat if you've been out there, but in the back, kind of that pork chop piece that I was talking about drops down fairly considerably to Bates Drive, so we want to make sure the rear runoff is captured and infiltrated into the ground. New utilities will be extended into the lot. We are going to try to reuse some of the existing utilities that currently service the commercial office building for one of the 2 lots. We've got to go through the necessary process with the utility companies and DPW to verify that those utilities are in good shape to reuse, but that'll save us from digging up a portion of Concord Street. We do have to go get new water and gas for one of the 2 lots. You can see on the plan we are proposing a new curb cut there. In terms of other site improvements, as I mentioned, the existing building and parking lot will be demolished. Utility services, we are proposing new curbing and sidewalk along the property. The plan shows probably 2/3 of the curbing and sidewalk will be replaced. We did receive a comment from the engineering department as part of their review asking us to kind of complete the picture in terms of sidewalk, which the applicant is amenable to. Mr. Chair, we did have one waiver request outlined in my letter. It's the fairly standard existing conditions waiver for properties located within 1,000 feet of the subdivision. I'd be happy to answer any questions related to that, but I think my waiver letter speaks for itself. I think that's really it, Mr. Chair. We did receive comments from the engineering department. I think those were fairly straightforward. We're content with working through those comments with engineering. Fire department has signed off on the project, assigned new addresses, so we're in pretty good shape there. And all the other staff conditions are acceptable to the applicant. So with that, I'll wrap things up and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks. Anybody from the board? Alderman Clee?
Thank you so much. Just like I had the same concern when the other property went in, and I know it's the same builder, so I trust that he will, or I should say same developer, trust that they'll do it. You mentioned it, the runoff. This does go straight into the backyards of properties on Bate Street. So there is no concern. And I know there's also those like kind of apartment building in the back, very kind of tucked back there and so on. This new, the two new properties and so on are not going to create such a runoff or something like that with snow and rain. And I'm glad to see more pervious ground will be there. But
Sure.
You said about a leaching field and so on, but is it going to be enough to create, or should there be a catch basin or something?
Yeah, so we're really mimicking the existing condition. The existing parking lot drains to the rear of the property where it goes into a leaching catch basin. My experience with those are they're good for the first flush, smaller storm events. Anything other than that will probably, it won't be big enough to accommodate, and it'll probably overflow down the hill. Same approach is the rear of the existing house, or the existing office building, I'm sorry, drains to a leaching catch basin. So there are two leaching catch basins out there, and we're really mimicking that with the proposed, house layout. It's mostly going to be lawn area back there, and with the reduction in impervious, there should be an improvement, in fact, with stormwater.
May I?
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And truth be told, right now, with severe rain as we've had recently, they're getting flooding anyway. So, but I appreciate you doing as much as you can. Thank you.
Other questions by the board for the applicant? Okay. All right. Anybody in the audience or online wishing to speak in opposition or concern or have a question of the plan? Okay. Anybody in the audience wishing to speak in favor? Okay, hearing none, I will give the board one more opportunity to ask any questions of the applicant or staff while we're in the hearing. All right, I will go ahead and close the hearing then, move on to the meeting. So, okay, so we've got a two-lot, 1 into 2 subdivision, sidewalk. There's no waivers or anything on this as they're being constructed. So anybody got any comments, any discussion points, things they want to talk about? Alderman Clee?
Thank you. The architect speaking did mention that there's different types of uses within that area after Greeley Park. And as the ward alderman there, I often hear people say, that's a historic area, it's right next to Greeley and so on. But truth be told, while there's still some old houses once you get past there, there are a lot of new construction, as well as what was said, Kirkpatrick's is there on the corner, and Shirley Flores. So there are a lot of different types of buildings there. I'm glad to see, I'd rather see 2 homes built there than another office building of some sort. I think it kind of keeps with the continuity of Greeley Park. So I think it's a good plan and a good idea, and I believe that they will build it in such a way that will enhance that area. So.
Okay, great. Any other discussion or comments from the board? All right, anybody want to make a motion? Mr. Bollinger?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve new business case A23-0210, property located at 111 Concord Street, finding that it does meet the requirements outlined in subdivision NRO, section 190-138G, subject to 6 conditions. The first is with respect to a waiver request of section 190-282B9 regarding physical features, which shall read, is granted and will not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the regulation. Conditions 2 through 6, as written in the staff report.
Okay, thank you. So we have that motion to approve by Mr. Ballinger with the 6 stipulations as stated. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Varley. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. So that kind of concludes our agenda with regard to plans and subdivisions and things like that. Moving on to the other business, we do have a tentative agenda that was published. Has anybody had a chance to take a look at that and want to make a motion as to whether there are any items of potential regional impact? Mr. Ballinger?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'd like to make a motion that there are no projects of regional impact as identified in the tech review meeting of January 2nd, 2024.
Okay, so we have that motion by Mr. Ballinger that there are no items on the tentative agenda that are potential regional impact. Do we have a second? Second by Ms. Harper. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. That motion passes unanimously. Next up, other business, we have a notice of development of regional impact from Hudson. I don't know, Sam, if you want to just say a couple of words on that and what our
Sure.
role might be. So.
You may see in the notice that the Hudson Planning Board wanted to notice a proposed gas station at, I believe, 77 Central Street, just for perceived potential impacts to transportation networks. In reviewing the plan, it appears to be relatively minor. I don't think that we would see any significant impacts on our side of the river, if you will. But just out of respect to their process, I figured we'd bring it to the board, and if there are any comments, I'm happy to relay them to the Hudson Planning Board and staff.
Okay. Do we need to do any formal motion, or is this just if we have comments?
If you don't
can
have
do-
any comments, a formal motion saying we have no comments,
Okay.
I think would be
That would be,
a good
okay.
way to button it up.
All right. So I'll put it out to the board. Did anybody had a chance to look at this and want to make any comments on Mr. Ballinger?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, being familiar with the proximity to the town and city line, I didn't see any concerns. I think that type of development would not have substantial impact on traffic operations or any other lifestyle issues, if you will, on the Nashua side. I don't see a particularly vested interest in the city of Nashua, but that is, that's just my opinion alone on that.
Okay. Alderman Clee?
Thank you, and I'm not sure the relevance of this, but knowing that they're going to be doing a project on the bridge, going over there and so on, I just didn't know if this was going to have an impact on the traffic flow and so on, if they're in the midst of developing this. Not that we can actually really stop them from doing something they want to do on their side of the bridge. I'm just a little bit concerned while they're trying to do that, and we're trying to, if I'm remembering correctly, going on each side of the bridge, we're going to cut traffic down to one lane. And I don't know if this is going to have any of that impact as well.
I would suspect that any traffic associated with the development of this site would be negligible when compared to the daily traffic of commuters and for other purposes. I don't think that we would notice any real impact from this development on traffic, even in conjunction with any sort of construction on the bridge.
May I?
Yep, go ahead.
I think my question probably was, and this doesn't look like it's a large enough project to truly have, we're not building a huge apartment complex of any sort. My concern was the traffic flow of their vehicles as well as the construction. Because more than likely, they're going to come in through Nashua to that site to do the work.
Are you talking about site development or like fuel deliveries during operation?
Not the fuel deliveries, because that I think would be negligible. I'm talking about more during the site development and the working on it and so on. Because it looks like it's going to coincide with about the same time that they're going to be doing the bridge project. And these two things are going to bump into each other.
Yeah, no, my points, I would still stand by those. I
Okay.
think it would be negligible.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Here, someone want to make a motion on this regarding whether we have a perceived regional impact? Mr. Barley?
Yeah, I would just say I concur with Mr. Bollinger. I also didn't see that there was really any meaningful impact on Nashua. So my motion would be to indicate that the board has no comment on the proposal, finding that it doesn't have a regional impact relative to Nashua.
Okay, so we have that motion by Mr. Barley as stated. Do we have a second on it? Second by Mr. Green. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. Okay. I think that is the end of our regular meeting agenda. Is there any discussion items from anybody at this point? No? Okay. So I can take a motion to adjourn on this meeting. We still have our annual meeting kind of piece, but anybody want to make a motion to adjourn the regular meeting?
I motion to
Alderman
adjourn.
Clee? So we have that motion to adjourn by Alderman Clee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. That motion passes. We're adjourned the regular meeting at 7:21. You broke a record on this, didn't you? I think we did. I'm excited. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and, now that we're up again, to call to order this annual meeting of the City of Nashua Planning Board for the 4th of January 2024. So let's do a second roll call for the annual meeting.
Mayor Donchis, Mike Peterson, Scott Leclaire,
Here.
Adam Varley,
Here?
Maggie Harper here, Alderman Clee,
Here.
Dan Hudson, Bob Bollinger,
Here.
Larry Hirsch. Here. Cameron Green.
All right, so we have a quorum, we'll move on. So the purpose of this meeting is really just the nomination and election of officers for the board for the year 2024. So starting off, I think we had some nominations entered on the slate.
Yes, we did, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
okay. Do you want to go ahead and announce them?
Yes.
Yeah,
We had one nomination for myself as secretary,
okay.
one nomination for Mr. Varley as vice chair, and two nominations for Mr. Bollinger for chair.
Nice, okay. All right, so those were the pre-meeting nominations. Does anybody have any other nominations they want to add to the slate while we're here in the meeting? Any comments by any of the nominees that they do not want to be nominated? Okay, no. So not hearing any of those, I would be looking for a initial motion on a slate, and we can do that as a slate, since we only have one of each. Does anybody want to make a motion here? Mr. Varley?
Yeah, I'm realizing that I'm making the motion in part to as to
Sorry,
myself, but
we can handle that.
I would make a motion to approve that slate, and in doing so, I would just say thank you first to Scott for all his years as chair and doing a fantastic job, and I know it's a lot to do that, and then I thank Mr. Bollinger for being willing to step up and take over that role. So with that, I would make the motion to approve the slate as proposed.
Excellent. Okay, so we have the motion by Mr. Varley for the slate of Mr. Ballinger as chair, Mr. Varley as vice, and Ms. Harper as secretary. And we have a second by Mr. Green for that slate. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? That motion passes. Congratulations, Mr. Ballinger, Mr. Varley, and Ms.
Say
Harper.
congratulations.
All right.
Sorry.
That is all we have for the annual meeting. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, so we have a motion to adjourn by Mr. Hirsch. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. We are adjourned at 7:25.
Wow.